We are the wise and wicked crones. Got no time for lies, no time for casting stones. Wise and wicked, no time for fears or prevarications. Wise and wicked, gonna rise among the nations. Crones are gonna spread our wisdom around the nations. We are the wise and wicked crones. Wise and wicked crones.
Okay.
Well, hello, hello, hello.
Hello, it's been a long time.
It has been two election campaigns, and then it has been for me getting a house ready for sale. It's basically turned into a house flip, which was not the intention, but it like had to get so many things done that anyway, it looks good. It's going up this weekend. And you've had a crazy month with grandkids and
Yeah, not so much now. I think I did two back-to-back elections, which was exhausting. And it took me a while to recover from, definitely took me a while to recover from all that. So, and I don't know, May just kind of zipped by now. Here, we're a third of the way into June.
no,
I have
don't put it like that.
I have a step grandbaby due any day now. Yesterday was the due date, so we're waiting on him. And I said to my stepson, like, I don't care what time of day or night you text me when she goes into labor. And he's like, oh,
Yeah.
I have
Oh,
my phone with me at work. I'm every time that I get a text, and I'm like, John, babies don't come at like 11 in the morning. You'll be at 3 a.m. driving her in, so just you wait
oh.
right about that. Yeah, and what's really cute is as you know, we're big Lord of the Rings fans, so the entire nursery is decorated in Lord of the Rings Hobbit stuff. It's very cool.
Ooh,
So, yeah, and
ooh.
at the baby shower, they got a lot of everything was Hobbit themed, almost everything, like little hoodies and t-shirt. It was adorable. So anyway, so yeah.
And of course, it must have like a onesie that says "My precious," right?
Yeah, there was.
Of
Oh,
course, there would be. That's too funny. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, before we get into the topic of the day, which is actually going to be a fun one, we should do our land acknowledgement. I guess
Mhm.
I'll do that. We acknowledge that this recording is taking place on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and many other peoples from other nations all across Turtle Island. And that's the truncated version today, but we acknowledge. Okay. And oh, I'm Peggy Sample, and I am a singer, a creator, a mom, a friend, a daughter, a wife, all the good things. And I'm passionate. I'm passionate about the world being kind.
Yep, we could do with a little bit more kindness. So there you go. My name is Leea Nutson. I have to read this because I'm suffering from intense brain fog these days. A warrior, a widow, a political wonk, a rabid knitter, a yoga enthusiast, a workout enthusiast, a grandmother, a dog lover, and a drinker of fine wine. Although that's
Hmm.
kind of off to the side now because I'm feeling so funky. So, forest fires drifting from the smoke drifting across Canada. My friend in Finland was astonished to hear that they're actually affecting us here, but it has caused, as you can hear, a frog in my throat. So, I
Yeah,
apologize.
it has here as well. And I mean, our hearts are with everybody who is dealing with it.
So
From
horrible.
British Columbia, Squamish is on an evacuation alert, all the way across Sandy Lake here in Ontario. It's just, it's awful.
Oh, it bodes up very poorly for the summer. So, our mission statement combined, we've accumulated over a century of learning and life experiences. Our mission is to bring you thought provoking, interesting, and often humorous wisdom that will enhance your life and enlighten your spirit. Nothing is sacred. This is a frank look at life and an open space for discussion, and we welcome you into our worlds.
Welcome. Indeed. And I'm going to, and also, of course, everything in the podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. It is not to be it's not to be thought of as professional advice. If you need professional advice, go talk to a professional. Okay, I'm going to pull a card. Anybody who's familiar with the podcast knows we like to start by pulling a card that may have. Oh, and we have nine of discs. Well, I think this pertains to how you and I are feeling, Leia, more than the topic today. It's about taking the time and space to create and to center within and to not worry about the longevity of something or the permanence or the impact, but to do it just for the sake of doing it. You see, she's doing sand art, which is just going to blow away. But there's also other shields and things that will last. So it's kind of, that nine of coming together. Um, so I think it's really the cards are talking to how we're feeling as opposed to the topic of the day, which is,
TV shows from our youth and how they impacted us, or how we feel about them, or how they may have influenced our lives. So there you
yeah,
go. So we're going to talk about TV.
TV. And it's also an excuse for me to possibly sing many theme songs because I seem to remember them all. I'm one of those people at parties and they say, "Oh, does anybody remember the theme from the Monkees?" And I'm
Yeah,
there.
there you go. And it's really funny because there are a lot of shows, of course, that impacted us
Yes.
growing up when we were young. But there's always a couple that are the absolute standout, and ones that even to this day you can go back and watch and watch happily. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so for me, it's kind of minor, don't seem to be related, but in a way they are. First, the most impactful show for me for sure was Star Trek
Mm.
original series, and then of course all the spin-off series. And it has shaped how I believe, or how I would like the world to look. The other show, believe it or not, is I Love Lucy. And I know my mother was a huge I Love Lucy fan. Well, what do these two shows have in common? Well, something very interesting. For those of you who don't know, Desilu Productions, Lucille Ball Studio was the original producers of the original Star Trek because
Yep.
nobody else optioned it. So what an incredible woman to be such an incredible visionary to do this. And I think Star Trek, more than almost any other show, I mean, there's a few that come close, perhaps like All in the Family, but it had more spin-offs and shows that are still going to this day as a result of the original series. So I think that's really, really, really interesting.
And it was really ahead of its time in terms of what it would present as issues on shows. It was the first interracial kiss on television, right? It was a show. They had an episode where they were on this planet, and the guys wanted to infect people so they would kill them off, but they wouldn't allow birth control. Um, it's like there is.
Remember that? Yeah, I
So it's
remember that.
not about sanctity of life at all. It was just it was really it was about control, right? And it's really there's so many things when you look, and they were a crew of all different races. There were men and women. The women were short shrifted in the original, but
Yeah.
there were still women. You
Yeah,
know,
and yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, they did wear the little mini skirts and all that kind of stuff in the original series. And there were still misogynist things only in the sense of that was what was the cultural norm at the time. But indeed, it was, looking back, it's still probably way more advanced than a lot of the other nonsense that was up there on TV about women and women's roles. And so, for that reason, that I think that's really important. Of course, with their communicators, they were a precursor to our beloved cell phones.
mm.
Um, when I had a flip phone, I used to love that because it'd be like Star Trek. Um, I
Well, look at all the phrases we have too, right? Like beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty, yeah. And there were like so many, and yeah, and you could go back and look at all the those original episodes, and then of course the into the next generation, so on and so forth. But a lot of the themes that they explored that were very, very deep, and some of them were a little heavy-handed religious, but many of them were just so important. And I remember the one where the guy, he was half white on one side and half black on the other. He was chasing this fugitive across the universe who looked exactly like him. And then I guess in at some point, or maybe it was even at the end, they're like what's he's not like he claimed that this guy was so different from him, and they're like, we can't see the difference. And he said, oh, something to the effect of, well, I'm white on the left side and he's black on the left side, and therefore he's completely different from me. So, there were a lot of, yes, maybe heavy-handed by our standards, but still lots of introductory themes that I think are really important. But I think the thing that impacted me the most is just how people treat each other and what's important in society. And the fact that it was more egalitarian, it was fair, it was people had virtues, they had values. It was supposed to be at this point in time, we're supposed to be forward moving and looking to the future and developing and doing all these wonderful things. And yet, for some reason, at this point in time, I feel like we're backpedaling.
Oh,
I wanted to live in the Star Trek world, and we're not in the Star Trek world. We're in some weird, bizarre Margaret Atwood dystopian novel. And if you've never read Oryx and Crake, you should, because everybody talks about A Handmaid's Tale. Forget it. Oryx and Crake is the world 150 years from now, if a Trumpian world, so to speak. So
mm,
difficult that I can't even read it again. So difficult that I can't
no,
even read it.
no, no.
So I always dreamt about a Star Trek world, and that's how we would see the world. And unfortunately, that is not where we're at all. At all.
We can but work at it, right? We can but keep our voices strong and not let them silence us because that's problematic, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, well,
agreed.
I'm going to go in a different direction. We're about the same age. You're a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
So, but I'm going to start off with The Friendly Giant, which
Oh,
was one of my favorite shows. And every morning he would start with the recorder, early one morning, just as the sun was rising, right? Although it was only just the recorder, not the words. And there was Rusty, and there was Jerome the giraffe and Rusty the rooster, and then there were guest stars like the jazz cats, the cats that came on and did jazz.
I can't
But it
remember that.
was it was it was a gentle, loving show. And I just when I was a little girl, it was something that I liked it the best of any of the shows that were available. And of course, when I was growing up in Ottawa, there were three TV stations, and one of them was French CBC, English CBC, and CGOH, which was CTV. And then it was so exciting when TVO and
Mhm.
Global happened. Woo, 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 right? But
It
so
was the same in Toronto. We didn't have a lot of choices. We did get Hamilton as well,
yeah.
but those antennas didn't go very far. Interesting factoid, my neighbor down the street was the puppeteer for he was the puppeteer for Friendly Giant. He
Oh,
did.
how cool is that? Well,
Yeah.
tell him he has a fan.
Well, that was no, that was years ago when I was
I know.
growing up. I
Oh, when
was
you were growing up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when I was growing up, when I was a child, the family down the street were the Connie Bears, and he was the puppeteer.
Oh, yeah. Ron
Yeah.
Connie Bear. So, see, I watched it so many times I
Oh my
remember.
God, you remember that? Yeah. Okay, that's so
I
cool.
I loved that show. I really, and it was a kind and loving show, and it was gentle, and it was stories, and it was imagination, and all of that good stuff, right? So that actually, I think, had a huge impact on me. And plus, it's just, oh, he was so great, the Friendly Giant. Um, and then it's so funny, like there's so many shows, right? But one that really I think influenced me. was Bewitched. And part of the reason was I thought she was really stupid to not use her witchcraft because her husband didn't want her to. Um, I have a scrapbook. I used to do drawings and like graphic novels way ahead of their time, comic strips, right? And I had one of Bewitched, and there's Samantha, and she's like, "Bye, honey. Have a nice day at work." Phew, thought he'd never leave. Clean the house. Doodle-doo-doo. Oh, I think I'll put on a ball gown, and I'll go to Paris. So for me, it was all about travel, but I thought she was so stupid. And if you think about it now, her mother hated her husband. Well, of course she would hate her husband. He was completely suppressing her and her gifts.
So
I
I
guess
think this is really interesting because I'm now seeing parallels because the first show we each talked about is a show about kindness, optimism, the doing the right thing. So even though the vehicle is different, the message is still the same. Now, when you talk about Bewitched, which is a show I watch tons of, I totally understand what you're saying. But my other one is I Love Lucy.
which I
And
love.
yeah, but here, same thing. We have a clever woman, a smart woman, an ambitious woman, but kept down by the norms of the time, which was the husband. So Bewitched, I don't think she was dumb. I think she was trying to fit into that world without using her power, although she had the power. And, Lucy had power as well, but like as more as a normal mortal woman. So these are two women of power who are being subjected to the whims of their spouses and not allowed to use their power.
Not allowed, and also agreeing to the suppression.
Well, that's
In
what you do when you're a woman, right?
Well, right, but I thought that was so wrong as a child, right? And I mean, like one of the other shows with magic, I loved magic always, was I Dream of Jeannie. And
Yeah.
she did use hers, yes, right? Like boop, to get to make things happen. Although I kind of thought it was weird that she always called him master. And
And he kept her in a bottle.
they kept her in a bottle.
So again, her power is still being um,
Yep.
so I don't know if it was her or in Bewitched, but one of those two was asked, why don't you like turn all the deserts in the world into farmland and blah to do this? So I don't know which character it was, but they replied, because if I do that, then I'll take away from somewhere else. If I make the
Mm-mm.
Sahara into a forest, something else becomes a desert. So they knew that there was
Balance.
a cap to their power. They could use their power in the world, but they couldn't use it to change the physics of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also both of those characters they were both blondes. They both had brunette evil twins, right?
Yeah, a little bit of complex I'm
And
getting.
they had so much fun. Like I always thought, wow, they're the ones that are having the real fun, right?
Yep, yep, yep,
Um,
yep. Oh,
and
I remember that. What was Samantha's cousin's name?
Sabrina,
Sabrina, that's right. And she had like a
wasn't it?
mole. Yeah, I think it was Sabrina, something like that. And she was like really spicy and she was fun and yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that, I think that is so interesting. So again, there are parallels
Yeah.
to that. There were a lot of other shows that we kind of got hooked into, and there's like so many. I mean, Sunday night waiting for Disney to come on was always huge.
Oh, huge, huge.
Animal Kingdom, that was huge. Someone's texting me here. Um, the other ones, of course, were Partridge Family, Brady Bunch.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, very, except the fact they were big families, they were actually very different because Brady Bunch, there is the stay-at-home mom, the dad, with the briefcase and the whole bit, and
Architect.
that was very traditional. And the fact that she had a housekeeper just pissed me off because I thought, why aren't you just doing it yourself, lady? Anyways, said to someone who has a cleaning lady. Um, Yet Partridge Family, there was somebody who took control of her family situation, made the best out of the bad situation and, took control. So they were actually very different shows. But I know that they kept trying to get them to they had some kind of a meetup or something. I don't know, maybe that was just fantasy. But
Um,
very different, very different, very different.
well, there were a bunch of variety shows too, right? Like I love the Carol Burnett show.
Oh, me too.
Oh, she's still going strong. She's still incredible.
Yep.
The interview with her that Julia Louis-Dreyfus does is brilliant. Carol Burnett is just,
Okay.
oh my gosh, she's so good. But she would come on, she would do live with the audience. She was funny, she was talented, she made fun of herself, she was a physical comic, and she just pushed and pushed edges, right? Like she pushed things and
She really was a trailblazer, really, really hugely. And it was never vulgar humor, but it was always really like hysterical. Yeah,
sometimes it was just like they walk that little
yeah,
60s tightrope, right?
a little bit on the edge there. There were so many funny episodes. Of course, the classic one where it's Gone with the Wind and
Oh,
she turns the
these
curtain.
old things, they've just been hanging around forever.
Riot. And what was the other one? Oh, the one when Tim Conway tells the story about the elephant at the circus. Oh my God.
Yes.
And you can see them. They're like they're losing their minds. It was such a funny show, and it's
I
still to
love
that.
watching the outtakes from that now. Like
Yeah,
I can, if I'm down, oh my gosh, Carol Burnett outtakes,
yeah.
because especially Vicki Lawrence could hold, she could hold better than any of the others.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then she would just zing them and completely annihilate them. So,
It was so good. That was a truly, truly, really good show. Shows I was never hugely interested in were like all the medical dramas and Dr. Kildare. My aunt was a huge fan
mm.
of Dr. Kildare. Then there was what other ones was there? There was another doctor one.
Marcus
Uh,
Welby, MD.
yeah, there was one before that though. The guy was dark haired. I can't
Oh,
remember. Yeah, you know who I mean. Yeah,
but
you know.
I do, but you've made me think of Perry Mason.
Okay, Perry Mason. Yeah, I did watch a bit of Perry Mason, but I didn't like his face. His face bugged me, so I didn't watch.
Dr. Kildare. I knew it would come. Dr.
No, I
Kildare.
said Dr. Kildare, but there was another one.
Did you?
Yeah, I said Dr. Kildare. There was another one with a dark-haired guy, Ben Casey. That was it, Ben
That,
Casey. Yeah, Ben
there we
Casey. I
go.
remember that one. So those were, but again, I wasn't, and like I never got into Peyton Place or any of that kind of nonsense, like I said. Um, However, I did watch a few episodes of The Twilight Zone, which scared the crap right out of me.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I
uh,
things that you still remember.
yeah.
Oh,
What was the other one from the other one like The Twilight Zone? There was another one that was kind of that same kind of a thing. But anyways, if you that episode, I think I put it up on Facebook a little while ago. If you haven't seen that episode of The Twilight Zone with Billy Mummy in it, I feel like I've lost my camera here. Billy Mummy as the little kid who basically controlled the world. Have you seen that
mm,
one?
no.
Oh my gosh, you have to watch it because it's like Trump. It's like living in a Trumpian, terrifying world. It's about Billy Mummy. I forget what it's
Mm,
called, and you have to watch it. It is definitely worth watching.
mm.
And also the one with William Shatner with the gremlin or whatever out on the plane, the wing of the airplane. You
See,
haven't
for
seen that?
me, that wasn't something. I think it was the wrong age or the wrong something. And also, you remember in those days who controlled the television, right? Was the parents, right? Um,
I think
and
I watched them with I have an uncle who's 5 years older than me and an aunt who's 10 years older than me. So, and I
uh,
spent a lot of time with them. So I'm pretty sure it was because of them that I ended up watching those particular shows. But yeah, I was certainly caused enough childhood terror. I had terrible terrors as a child. So
mm,
now I know
mm.
the source of them. And then there was other ones like there was Fantastic Voyage, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Remember those
Well, those are
ones?
movies more though, right?
No, they were TV shows.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I didn't watch them.
Lost in Space. Remember that one?
I do remember that.
You sing,
Warning, warning.
you sing the theme song.
Well, I mean, cartoons too, right? Like I've just in my brain, I've just been thinking about Flintstones.
Oh, Flintstones.
It was, they had so many parodies of so
Yeah.
many things.
Oh, yeah.
And it was when I would watch it with my own children, because I mean, it just kept going in reruns forever. And I would, I would like be deconstructing it and saying, isn't Wilma silly for wanting to hide that from Fred? Or isn't that silly how, like, so I couldn't help myself. I had to just put that in there for like, it was like, what was
Yeah.
the other show that I let them watch, but um, I had to watch it. I always watched a lot of shows with them until I figured out what the outlook on the show
Yeah.
was. Um, but I remember my dad not letting us watch All in the Family
Oh, interesting.
because he didn't think we were old enough to understand that it was against racism. And
Yeah.
he didn't want the language and those views when we were too young.
Yeah.
And as we got
Exactly.
older, then we all would watch it. But I remember that he just, and I was like, all my friends are watching it. He's like, doesn't matter.
I did watch it and all the spin-offs as well. And of course I loved Maude because Maude was like
Oh yeah.
the original women's liver. And of course, nowadays when you look back on it, it's quite tame. Mary Tyler Moore Show was another
Oh,
cute. But you know what? It's really, and it was all about her being an independent woman and all this kind of stuff, and totally good. But I have a DVD of season 2 or 3 somewhere, maybe not here, maybe at Buckleberry. And I remember Bob and I said we're gonna go like, okay, let's sit down. We're gonna have popcorn. We're gonna watch this. It was so bad. We couldn't even get through the first episode. It was just so lame. But it was a classic and certainly very, very
and
inspiring in its
you know,
time.
she had to fight. She had to fight tooth and nail to get that to be about an independent single woman who was
Yep.
career focused.
Oh yeah.
The studio was saying, "Well, yeah, we want you to do the show, but how about if she's a widow? Or how about if she's divorced? Or how about if she's really looking for a guy and the job
Yeah.
is just like." She had to fight really hard for that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Dick Van Dyke Show, which was the show that she was on
Yes.
before that,
Yeah.
um, she was so the opposite. She was a stay-at-home mom, and it was, there was lots of tears and crying, and oh, Rob, and he'd be like, oh, honey, and very, very, again, a show I really liked, but still, you again, much more traditional, much more in the
It's really
traditional norms of,
interesting, right, to think back on them. And I mean, a lot of times we didn't, oh, we don't have, how would we have awareness, right? Because
exactly.
we were kids. Um, but other than me being annoyed at Samantha that she wasn't using her powers. But I guess I've always been a bit of a feminist,
Yeah.
even from that point of view, because I remember saying, like, in kindergarten having almost a fight with somebody that girls were just as good as boys. Girls
Yeah.
could do anything boys could do,
Oh yeah, exactly.
you
And I
know?
mean, and we as baby boomers, we were the big transition, I think, into how people are today. I mean, I certainly see less and less of those stereotypic norms applied to, like my daughter-in-law and that younger generation. And my own sons don't talk that kind of language. But
Hmm.
certainly, when I got married, very, very young, there was, my mother-in-law who was a lovely, lovely woman, but she was like, now you have to listen to your husband and just don't complain and just smile and don't say anything and don't fight back and like that kind of attitude, which is completely the opposite because I'm a warrior. I fight, I'll fight.
Yeah.
Uh, got that messaging, and I'll never forget my sister-in-law at the time said to me, and I might have said this before on one of the episodes, something we were discussing something, and she said, well, isn't your husband smarter than you? My husband's smarter than me. And first of all, he wasn't, and he wasn't. And I looked at her in absolute horror that she would believe that or say that, but it was and she's 8 years older than me, so would be like 10 years older than you. So, but she's still had enough of that residual hearing in the back of it that you do what your husband says and your husband is smarter than you by the merit of him being a man. which we all know is just absolute
Yeah.
nonsense.
Wow.
Monkeys was a show that I liked. That was
Love
fun.
the monkeys. I found a short story I wrote back grade two, I think it was, and it was like, gotta get home, 7 o'clock, Tuesday night, the monkeys are on. I was like,
Oh yeah.
it was
Oh
a
yeah.
real, and who were you in love with?
I was in love with Mickey Dolenz, believe it or not.
Very good. I was youngest, so I was still Davy Jones, because he
Yeah.
had those stars in his eyes.
He did. I think I like Mickey Dolenz because I remembered him from Disney, because he had been a Disney child star, right?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And there was, yeah. And I think he's the only one still alive, actually. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's the only one that's still alive. So
well,
there was that. I did love that. What was it? We were talking, who was I talking last? Oh, it was maybe at my knitting group last night. And I talked about talking about this, and my friend brought up, what was it? The one with Bobby Sherman about the bra. It was the Seven
Seven
Brothers,
Brides for Seven Brothers. Oh.
which is the most misogynist, unbelievable. Like maybe I don't remember the TV show at all, but certainly the movie was horrific.
Oh, the musical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the treatment of women. I mean, the dance scenes were fantastic, but it was horrific. I don't remember anything about the show at all, at all,
No,
at all.
no, except Bobby Sherman, right? Because they really tried hard to like have preteens and teeny boppers. We were all supposed to have crushes on these people,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And they would
Oh yeah.
target us, and it was sort of like I didn't really. But when you were talking with your friends, well, yeah, no, ooh, Davy Jones or ooh, Ringo Starr or you
No.
know,
Truthfully, my first and only TV crush was Matthew Perry from Friends.
really?
Yeah.
My
Even though he was younger than me, I was madly in love with him. And I thought and during my very tumultuous first marriage, I kept thinking, oh, if only my husband were like that. And I kept thinking,
oh,
oh, maybe I could find somebody like that. And then, of course, I did. I found like Bob. Bob
yeah.
well, not, I mean, in many ways was like that, but just I was madly in love with, and I know we're digressing coming out of childhood, but that was the only person that I've ever had a crush on,
The one
except
I
maybe.
had, the one I had a crush on
Ah,
was there was a show, and I think it was called Thierry La France, something like that. I called it Thierry La France, and I watched it in English on CBC, and he was this like a Robin Hood character, and he
okay.
would ride horses, and there was a woman, Isabelle, who was like the second lead in the show. And when they took it off English CBC, I watched it in French. I loved him so much.
Remember
And
that.
I loved the show. Dun 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 dun. But
It's
I think
sort of
it's
ringing a bell, but not ringing a bell. Did he have
yeah.
dark hair?
Pardon?
Did he have dark hair? Was he a
Yeah.
dark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was in love with Captain Kirk, I have to admit. I thought William Shatner was a damn fine, good-looking guy and a Canadian from Montreal. Actually, he was on Colbert the other night, and what's really impressive is the guy's in his 90s and he's
Yeah.
just, doing this, that, and the other damn thing. So I think that's
Going
really
into
cool.
space.
Is he?
He went into space
Did
on
he?
one of those, space cadet things that get to go up into space and come back down.
Oh,
Not space
that's
cadet, but
yeah, Space Cadet. Okay, okay, yeah. And then of course there like when you talk Flintstones, of course, was based on the Honeymooners show, which was just a horrible show. I always thought that was a horrible show, and why they lived in such a dumpy apartment, I could not figure out. But there were other cartoons that I loved. One was called Johnny Quest. Do you remember
yeah,
Johnny
yeah, I
Quest?
remember Johnny Quest. Yeah.
Love Johnny Quest, love that one. Clutch Cargo, which I cannot remember, but apparently I watched it a lot. But probably one of my favorite cartoons that continued on until actually, even when I was a young mom, I used to watch was Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo. I like the whole idea of the mysteries and that the smartest, like Velma was the smartest one of
Yeah.
the group. And I
Yep.
just thought this was really cool to always be going out and finding all these really cool adventures. So,
Yeah.
uh, really, really like that
I
show.
bet we're gonna finish this and then we're gonna go, oh, we should have talked I should have wished I wish I'd
Oh,
remembered
yeah.
that one.
Oh, so
you know?
many.
Hey guys, when you're watching this, if you are so moved, please in the comments put your favorites because
Yeah.
it'd be really cool to see how many overlap and then with different, generations and things. Like when my kids who are now in their 30s, Power Rangers, my one son lived and breathed Power Rangers,
Yep. Oh yeah, for
right?
sure.
And
That's
again,
what that's, like,
go go Power Rangers. And it was boys and girls working
Yep.
equally.
Yep.
For the longest time, they avoided the romance thing, and then they kind of gave into the romance thing, which I was like, oh, come on, And the main villain was Rita Repulsa. Like, so it was their,
Yep.
strong female character, and
Yep.
they killed putties. So it wasn't like they were killing creatures, they were killing soulless putties made out of clay.
It's funny. There's a kid show on that you probably heard of called Paw Patrol about the dogs.
Hmm.
It's kind of like Power Rangers, but the thing that kills me about Paw Patrol is most of the characters are male, and the main female character in there wears pink, has bows in her ears or whatever, and there's still quite a bit of a feminization about her. Now they do bring in other female dog characters, which is good, but I still feel that it's still there's still that like token female in there, and obviously wearing pink. You're not gonna put one of the guys in pink. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, uh, when we were kids, it did. That's the thing. These things influenced us.
Oh
They
yeah.
like we loved powerful women then. We love powerful women now. We strive to be them, right? It's
That,
like you know, the Carol Burnett, the Lucille Ball, who
yeah.
just kept coming back, right? That she did series after series after series. First with Desi, then after they divorced, she went on her own. Like she just kept working.
So I think and it's funny because this now springing to mind some of the other things that I'm checking on our time here. Springing to mind some of the other things that we used to watch would have been like Leave It to Beaver. I don't know if you ever watched that.
It was no.
Okay, like that was
I've seen it, but I haven't. It was like Andy
so
Griffith's show.
stereo. Andy Griffith Show.
I liked that one.
Yeah, I did like that too. But like Leave It to Beaver was very, very stereotypical mom and dad and the whole, nuclear family and the whole business. Then there was it Leave It to Daddy? Leave It to Daddy? Was that the other one?
Oh, Father Knows Best.
No, there was Father Knows Best, but I think there was Leave It to Daddy or Wait
Hmm.
Till You're something like that. So there were a few of those with the patriarchal ones. Of course, My Three Sons. And actually, it's really funny because there was one. I was thinking about this the other day in anticipation of doing this episode, and I remember one of the things that really pissed me off more than anything on My Three Sons was when Robbie got married, and right after they got married, um, his wife, whose name escapes me, started behaving
Katie.
strange. Katie? Was it Katie?
I
Okay.
think it was
So,
Katie.
so, so she like walked into the room and then Robbie didn't say anything and she ran out of the room hysterically crying. And then this went kind of on and on. And it was because he didn't notice her new hairdo and all this kind of crap. And that it really portrayed her as being and the fatherly advice about how to manage and care for your woman, again, very stereotypical. And but I did watch them all, mostly because, in those days, like you mentioned at the beginning, we were very limited in the amount of shows that we could watch in
Yeah,
terms of the TV
yeah.
available. We
Do you
basically watched
remember?
available.
Yeah, what was available? I don't think it had very many seasons, but I loved The Ghost and Mrs. Muir.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right? And then
Yeah.
later on, I found out that it was based on a movie. And when I was working as a medium, so many times, when
Did that for me.
someone would come through, is that what happened with you?
That was one of the first things you said to me, and the very first reading you did was you said Bob wants you to watch The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, and which was really funny because up until that point, I had been going around the house going, if we could be like the ghost in Mrs. Muir, I'd be real happy. And I kept saying it and saying it and saying it. So when it was one of the first things you said to me, I almost fainted. I couldn't believe it. But it's true. It's
Bob has always been so good anytime at like just coming through with an exact thing.
popping in with it. I did buy it and I did watch the original, which was quite different than the TV show. And I watched a bit of the TV show as well. So yeah, did like that show. And you made me think of another one now. It's totally escaped me. Totally escaped me. But anyways, I mean, we
It
could go
was
on and on and on and
Oh,
on
we
and on.
could, but I think we probably should wrap it up. But
Yeah.
please do share anything that you like, or if you go, no, you're wrong on that one. But yeah, we'd love to have some feedback from you. Remember to please like and subscribe. Now that we're back, we would like to get this
And
rolling.
I think we're coming up to or we have hit our first anniversary. It's coming up
Ah,
in a day, 1 year of recording. So that's
oh
pretty
my
exciting.
gosh.
Yeah, so it's been quite a year, and I'm sure the next year is going to bring all kinds of other new and fascinating things as we watch this unprecedented world unfolding where things no longer make sense or follow any traditional norms. It's really,
Well,
really
the
interesting.
precedents that they're following are terrifying ones.
Some of them are good. I mean,
Some of them are good.
we have a great new prime minister, I believe, at the driver's seat right now. A lot of confidence in him. So that is, and I think the world is starting to sit up and
Yeah.
say, yeah, we can do
Yeah.
this.
Actually, yeah, I'm not traditionally a liberal voter, and I think Carney is definitely the guy for the job. Now, I know people will disagree with me on that, but I felt very strongly that he was very much positive with an economic background and working with different heads of state and stuff like, how is that not helpful, you know?
He's
So,
generally the smartest person in the room. And truthfully, a lot of people will agree with you, and I'll tell you why, because his approval ratings are at almost 48% right now.
wow.
Really, really high. So, and they're very high amongst conservative voters as well. So there is a lot because he's calm, cool, pragmatic, and he's thinking way ahead. He's not reactionary. And like I remember my son got really upset and he's not a liberal at all, but he did not like the fact that when Carney was sitting with Trump and Trump started to talk about Christopher Freeland, my son said, "Well, Carney should have defended her," and I went, "No." He's not rising to the bait for that kind of a thing. He's not going to do that at all. He's going to keep under control because that's what they were waiting for because
Yeah.
they were waiting to be able to
Trump's
pass.
like poke, 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 poke. And Carney's like, well, you know how
Mhm.
some places will just never be for sale, like this, the White House, or you Buckingham Palace. You've been to Buckingham Palace, right? Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, Canada's also not ever going to be for sale. Like it's like he stroked him with those little things that Trump.
That is a man who's thinking. So, and probably the only time I have ever heard Trump laugh was during that particular exchange. So that really interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, we
Well,
digress again. We could spend a
well,
whole.
we will we'll stop now
Yep,
and come again.
please do. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Join our Facebook group if you haven't already done so.
Yeah.
And we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah.
Have
Bye for now.
a bye.
Ciao.
Mwah.
Bye.